Hi, welcome to the Paige family homestead. We are going to do a rebel canning session today. You guessed it, with cheese. Oh man, they're not going to stop. It's not FDA approved. It's not approved by any government agency. The milk lobby doesn't want us to know, the dairy lobby. They're as powerful as the... Let's go inside and talk about this.
Hey, let's get this cheese canned. So what we're doing is cream cheese. Every package is 8 ounces. Inside we have the half pint jars, jelly jars. I have about this much water, maybe a third of the way up the jar. I can't put more water than that because they float. So I had this pan with the sterilized jars, pre-sterilized, in the oven at 200 degrees, getting them nice and hot. I've brought my cheese to room temperature and cut it into little tiny cubes. Everything is sterile. This is like a deli stick thingy that I'm using to put it in. I've got my debubbler here because we're going to be doing some debubbling. We don't want air. This is not FDA approved. This is not USDA approved. Why? They've never tested it. In all the years that they have had their office in working form, they have never tested it. Why? I'm figuring, after all this time, it must be because the milk lobby is just as powerful as the wheat conglomerates, or whatever you want to call them. They don't want us to know that we can actually can our dairy. I mean, we do milk, never had a problem. We do butter, never had a problem. Both are so convenient to have on hand. Shelf, just on the shelf. Right? I don't put them in the blazing sun, and I don't let them sit in a hot space. I mean, you gotta think, what is it? So you want to keep it in a nice regulated area, a cool temperature, not cold. I hear that people have been using it for off the shelf over a year old, and that at 2 years that the cream cheese, I don't know about all cheeses, I only heard about the cream cheese, tends to break down in texture. So I've never had my cheese in my possession after a year. My pantry is some prepping and mainly our groceries. So I rotate my jars, and I use it up. That's where that's our grocery store. So 1 8-ounce package will fit inside a jar. I'm going to let this sit because I want a 1-inch head space. And the 1 inch is going to be right here on the bottom rim of your jar, okay? So I'm going to put them back in the oven. It's a 200-degree oven. And with that, it's going to melt down a little bit. I'll be able to debubble. We want no air pockets. See the air pockets I have in here? No. We'll work that out. Right now I'm just going to keep loading. So there's one package done, right? I made sure my packages were clean on the outside before opening them. I made sure everything was sterile. My hands are super clean in case I touch. The stick I'm using has been washed, and I let it boil a little bit when I got my hot water bath canner going here, guys. Oh, hot water bath canning, we're not pressure canning. Why aren't we pressure canning? Cheese, I never say it right. the cream cheese is the same acidity, pretty much, as tomato. So it's considered to be, believe it or not, a high acid food. So we don't need, it's not necessary. Some people will, and that's fine. Your kitchen, your rules. You don't need to pressure can. It's not necessary. I've never had a problem with our cream cheese living on a shelf in my pantry. I have used a jar that was a year old, and to be totally honest, I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell the difference at all. That's good. That's good. And the texture with cream cheese, they say you can do this with block cheese, like your cheddars. Try to do it with a skim, a very mild cheese. It has more moisture in it. The older the cheese, the more dense it is, the less moisture it has, the less it's going to react nicely, I guess, for canning. It's still good, but it's not as good as what it could be. I might do some brick cheddar for you down the way, but right now I have to find a good sale to justify doing this. I was able to get $1.50 off per package. So for me, if I can get $1.50 off per package, I'm going to can them up and put them away. Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I? These are great during the holiday seasons to have on hand. You know how many recipes call for cream cheese. And like I said, we want 1 inch head space. And I do believe I'll achieve that when I get rid of the bubbles. So I'm just going to work these down. You can see it's already room temperature and it's softening up down there already. We'll have to really clean these rims up, guys. Because look at the air bubbles in there. I could do it now, but I'm just going to let them sit in the 200-degree oven. I'm going to check it I'm going to watch it very closely. I'm going to check it quite often. I have 6 jars here. I only have 5 packages. I like to keep an extra jar just in case something happens or I notice something I missed, or I like to do a couple jars more.
Peggy.
Oh, there's Andy. So I'm going to finish up with this. Fill up the jars, and I'll bring you back before I put them back in the oven. And we'll have a look. I'll bring you in close. You can't see. So here we are, up close. And I'm just going to fill these jars up. I'm going to work them down. Put them in the oven. See how there's water in the jar? I can't do this with one hand, guys. But just wanted you to get a close-up to see what we're doing. Okay, so I debubbled, worked them down as they melted from the hot water in the pan. Cleaned off the rims just lightly, just a little bit, so I wouldn't have such a big mess to work with when I pull them out. They're going back in the oven. I'm going to debubble some more. I want them a little bit more melted so I can make sure there's no bubbles, make sure I have my head space, and make sure the rims are clean. And then they're going in a hot water bath with the water 1 to 2 inches, preferably 2 inches above the jar. Sometimes with half pints, they float. So it'll be between 1 and 2 inches above. I'm going to wait until they start to boil and let them go for 30 minutes. And then we'll be back. Actually, we're going to cheat. I'm going to show you back out of the oven. I just wanted you to know what we're doing. 30 minutes, water bath canning. Back after we take them back out of the oven. I'll be watching them very closely. 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so I've had them in the oven at 200 degrees in this pot pan of water. And they're not real hot, but it melted the cheese enough that I could stab it down with my debubbler, get all the air bubbles out. And now I just want to make sure I'm using a clean tea towel on the rim. Make sure that it's nice and clean with vinegar. You can use vinegar. You don't have to worry about it curdling. You're not dunking it in and pouring in a tablespoon into the jar, right? You're squeezing it back out. It's moist. It's not soaking wet. Turn your paper towel. Go back over it again. Make sure it's nice and clean. I have my lids sitting in really hot kettle water. They've also been I sterilized them when I started, but they got cold, so I just threw them in a pot, a little container with kettle water. Just gonna clean these up, and then I'll bring you back over to the counter. We'll put the lids on while these are still warm, and they're going into a warm water bath. For 30 minutes once it starts to boil, and I want the water 1 to 2 inches above the top of the jars, and that'll do it. That'll give us cheese for our tomorrows like you wouldn't believe. All shelf stable in the cupboard. How do you beat that? Buy it on sale, process it, get it in the pantry. Good for, they say, up to 2 years. Myself, I have never had it last over a year to test it, because like I said, it is our grocery store. My pantry is our pantry that we shop in every week, every meal, every day. We use it, we rotate, and some of it is for prepping. The bulk of it is our food for tomorrow. And tomorrow and tomorrow. So I'll bring you over to the stove. Sorry about that. We had company. I had to stop. I put the lids on. You saw they were all clean on the rims. Put my hot lids on. Put them in the canner, which is running warm. I'm going to turn up the heat. Bring it to a boil. What you're seeing now is not a boil, guys. That's air escaping our jars. That's why we want it underwater. It creates a pressure. So I'm just going to let this go till she starts to do a boil, and then I'll set the alarm for 30 and I'll bring you back. Okay, so the timer's gone off. It's been 30 minutes. This is a very important step, so I brought you back. As you can see, I am using a propane, or gas, but this is propane. I've shut the heat source off. I do not need to move my canner because this is dairy. It's important that you remove your canner from the heat source. If you're on a glass stove top, lift gently and move to a cooler side. If you're using a big heavy canner on electric, again, be very careful and move to a cooler side. You do not want to leave it on the heat. Okay, electric remains the heat, the glass retains the heat. It takes longer to cool down. So I have it off. I'm going to leave it there for 10 minutes, and then when that timer goes off, I'm going to open my lid and leave it in there for 10 minutes, and then I'll bring you back when they're sitting out here where they need to be. Okay, so the timer went off, and I'm just going to set my lid like that for another 10 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to take the lid off, always away from you, even though it's sat for a minute. And let's get these babies out. There we go. They were on a trivet. You'll notice I have 6 jars. Wonder how many of you actually noticed. I just got looking at the jar all prepped and everything, and I had to take about a tablespoon out of each jar to keep my 1-inch headspace. So with the half pack I had and what I stole from Peter to pay Paul in the jars, I was able to get my 6th jar. So that was good. Look at this. 2 inches big or more. Beautiful clear water. Oh, I'm hearing them pop already. Never put your jars onto a cold counter or cold surface. Always on a towel or a mat so you don't shock them. Look at that. Isn't that nice? Well, ooh, that one's sealing. I'm watching the evaporation of the water on the top and it's sealed. So, I'm going to leave these. I'm not going to disturb them until tomorrow morning. However, once they've cooled down enough for me to like touch and they're cool to the touch, I'm going to open one this evening and serve it to Andy with a biscuit and see what he thinks. Let him do the taste test for you guys so you can see what it's like.
Well, look at that. I told you I'm going to show them no matter what you do. Ah. Hope you try it.
Okay, so I'm going to let Andy show you guys what he thinks of this. That was a nice seal.
But I've had it before.
But you haven't had this one. We're showing them.
Okay.
So, oh, look at that. The texture is so good on this, eh? Yum. Let's see it.
But I don't know if I want to.
Oh, right. Have at her, baby.
All right, there we go.
The texture's so nice.
Yeah, good.
Just like the others. It's,
yeah, it's the same.
See, to him, it's like, yeah, okay, it's cream cheese, because we do this all the time. But check it out.
It's good with red pepper chili.
Actually, I should have done that.
Okay, if you like this video, give us a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell, ding, 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 and we'll see you next video.
Why do you have a coat on?
I'm cold.